Okay, Eric, we seem to have a problem at the fire department. We need to see if we can work together on.
Okay.
Involves training. We need to update our training. So I'm kind of wanting to find out, as far as maybe get a little background on you to see if you might be able to help me out with this problem. How long have you been in the fire service?
Total in the fire service right now is 24 years.
Okay, and some of your background on training?
I've actually assisted in trainings for probably the last 15 to 16 years of that. I've got a lot of specialty trainings. Been on high angle rescue teams, water rescue teams, done some fire training stuff with the rookie classes and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you bring any outside skills? Any say like specialty type certifications? You might be able to help us out in developing a good training program.
As far as outside stuff, I've got several things that I do outside that also helps us out here. Heavy equipment operation. I've got a lot of experience with that. Drove truck for several years as far as driving and that type of stuff. Construction, fabrication type stuff. So as far as steel work, building construction, that type of stuff, I have a lot of experience in those areas. Several years of that.
Sounds great. You know, we talk about training, and we want to standardize the training in the fire service field. Why do you think that's so important?
Well, I think it's very important for us, especially. We're a small department. The guys move around a lot, especially with the 3 shifts. We have some guys on 40 hours. It's very important to keep everybody on the same page because from day to day, depending on injury, sick leave, that type of stuff, it's very important that we move these guys safely and to be safe so that they're all on the same page as far as doing things the same way, knowing the right way to do things. That way we don't have 3 different shifts training 3 different ways.
Okay, I agree with you. I mean, I look at it from a safety standpoint too. Like you're saying, all 3 shifts being trained on the same thing, that would definitely help out on a fire ground scene. I would also think maybe accountability too. What's your thoughts on that?
We've got a good accountability system in place, but as far as the accountability goes, the same thing, making sure that all 3 shifts are doing it the same, so that when we do have a major incident, or even the small things, that we're all confident in doing it the same way for safety.
That sounds good. So, like in your opinion, how do you see the training being set up by importance? What would be the main thing that you would see we should concentrate on developing a training schedule? What should we be looking towards?
I think the biggest thing right now, it's been so long since we've had a set schedule, probably starting with the basics, basic essentials, get the guys used to, basic knowledge, the way we handled things when we were younger. When you're beginning in the fire service, if you don't practice, you get lax, and I think that's something we really need to get back on.
Okay. We talk about teamwork being an important part of this too, so I know I'm talking to you a little bit about the training. I need to get with other guys also to kind of get a feel for what we should be heading towards, a direction for the department. Maybe like a guiding principle. You got any ideas as far as what we think we might be able to brainstorm to be a goal to reach with our training, be it safety, be it efficiency?
I think it should be a combination of both. I think, again, like we said before, starting at the bottom and working our way up into even a simple new technique. But it all is going to hinge on both safety and efficiency, really. There are a lot of new things out there, but the fire service is very circular. Something that outdates comes back in with a new technique, similar to what you learned 20 years ago. With that, if we can continue to bring these things back with the guys and let them work on it and get some hands on, the safety and efficiency will both come in hand in hand.
What's some of the things that you've seen in that circle you talked about that's
simple things like straight stream nozzles. You know, for a while they went out and we went back to a combination style nozzle, and now we're coming, you know, everything's moving back into where they're trying both. The new nozzles are combination tips where you got a straight and a fall, and the way you handle them, and you know, for several years it was pushing to make entry into the building as quick as we can, and now we're realizing that, you know, it's important to knock down some of that heat and make the environment safe for them guys to get into, so we don't get hurt, because of, you know, a lot of things play into that, especially new building construction just doesn't hold up like the older stuff did.
So I can see a lot of areas that we can work on in training. One of the problems that I see is we have 3 shifts, guys that work 24 hours, and then we have the 40-hour people. I was trying to figure out how we can work on scheduling to get all these people under the same training type scenarios. Do you have any ideas on what we might want to look about?
I think the biggest thing on the scheduling on that is to have it standardized to where every month it's the same period of time. That way the 40-hour guys especially know which day it's going to happen. So at least if nothing else, every 3 months they would get a chance to work with each shift.
Okay. Now, we talk about the 40-hour guys in training as compared to the guys that are on shift. I was kind of kicking around the idea of doing a combination training towards the end of the month that involves everybody. If we have this schedule that we talk about putting together, then we should be able to put something together at the end, a scenario-based.
I would think like a scenario-based event where, you know, be it tabletop style or something to where we get everybody working together and make it as real as we can with the actual scene.
Okay, that's good. And then one of the other aspects we have to look at too is when we do specialized training like auto extrication or swift water, when we bring people in to actually teach us, that could become an issue too. Any thoughts on how we can maybe work out that into our schedule?
The big thing with those, I think the duty crews, if we would have at least a first medic out backup or something like that, some way to at least take that first one out of the way. I mean, there's catastrophic events or something like that we're not going to be able to control, but at least if we can release some of the load from them guys for taking the first call out, let them get the hands-on training as much as they can.
Sounds good. You know, if you go online and you Google fire department training, there's tons and tons and tons of information out there. We have the National Fire Protection Administration has a guide out. IFSTA has guides out. How do you think we can accomplish good training while maintaining high standards? Is there any particular area that we should be looking at, or should we be maybe looking at a blended type of training where we're using multiple publications for our guidebooks?
I think probably the best thing for us to do to start with would be to follow just a standardized calendar to where we stick to subject. We have a class schedule and a lesson plan ahead of time, something that we can work with and stick to it. If we can find information online that coincides with everything that we're teaching, the more information the better, as long as it doesn't contradict each other. The last thing we want to do is find 2 or 3 different subject matters online and then have them contradict each other to where you're not really sure which one's right. As long as everything coincides with each other, and we set up like a committee for training to decide where we want to go in what direction. As long as that all agrees with each other, I think we would be fine to use any publication would work, as long as they agree with each other.
Now, let's dive a little bit into this committee. That's a good concept. What's your thoughts on the makeup of that committee? Should it be strictly officers, or should we involve officers and firefighters?
I think it should be as far as like the demographic of the department goes, I think it should follow that. You need some officers, you need senior guys, and you also need some of the younger guys that are fresh out of school, because you get a blend of experience, plus you also get the young guys that have the new and upcoming techniques that they just learned.
Okay. Along lines with our training, you know, we're talking about putting a schedule together. Right now, we we track our training through Firehouse, which is our software program, and we also do it on paper. I'm also trying to figure out or find a better way for us to be more efficient in that aspect. What's your thoughts on any type of way to streamline this process? It seems like we're doing double redundant.
We are doing redundancy. I try to keep class logs for my guys together. That way, if I have to go back and look, I have proof that was there, or I can even jog my own memory who was there. But I think the easiest way to do it would be to have either one person on each shift or one person total that does nothing but handle the data entry for trainings. That way there's not so many different hands in the cookie jar on that.
Okay. And that goes back to also, like I said, we're doing paper and we're doing electronic. Excuse me. To eliminate some of that, probably just going all electronic is what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
And that way we can print off certificates.
Well, if one or two people handle it, it would be easy to do that.
Okay.
Be as simple as a small check sheet for who was there, and the rest
Sure.
of it could be handled all on electronic.
Okay. Now we're also talking about, since we're going to look into putting a new training program together and possibly a committee to help guide us on this, how are we going to look at feedback to determine whether we are accomplishing what we want to with our training?
I think one thing that firemen are good at is they're good at speaking their mind. So I think if it's not up to snuff, you're going to hear it before long. The biggest thing would be at the end probably would be like a skills check, but it's going to have to be something that's a blanket for all three shifts, where we're all checking off on the same sheet.
Okay. I was also thinking along the lines too, if we did something like that, maybe an informal, we could even use the committee to look at getting feedback from the guys to see if we're having them. I was also thinking too that maybe on fire scenes, we'd be able to, if we start doing this training and get everybody consistent and see some regularity, we might see some different outcomes on the fire scenes. We might see more efficiency, we might be getting tasks done quicker. I think that'd be one area that we could look at as far as as a gauge. So I guess what I'm saying is we need to find a way to gauge our training to make sure that we're accomplishing our goal of what we want to maintain at the end. So, well, we talked about how the fire service is constantly changing, and you brought up the fact that it keeps circling around with technology and that. How should we look at, we talked a little bit about construction and firefighter techniques. How should we look at future problems and address them? Should we be staying on top of things as far as new information coming out to change our training techniques, to meet the newer construction, the newer technologies?
I think we're getting a lot of as far as information from the online sources and stuff. We're watching a lot of the UL tests and a lot of the fire engineering tests they're showing how things are changing and evolving as far as construction goes and that type of stuff. I think as long as we keep abreast on that and what all the current news is, and try to kind of evolve our training calendar around that. Every time something, there's always going to be things that pop up that we're not prepared for. But at least at that point, we should have a pretty good grip on what's coming around the bend.
Okay, I have one final question for you. What's one of the main things you'd like to see changed in the training program that we currently have?
The biggest thing for us would be to probably try to get a training officer position put in there for consistency. Somebody that could not only oversee the training, but also would help with scheduling and lesson plans to try to keep everything similar for all three shifts, and also facilitate things with us, help us out. And I think if we had that, we could take some of the weight off of the shift guys. The shift guys would actually be even more on board as far as making some hands-on some modeling things like a roof simulator or wall simulators, that type of stuff. It gives them more time to do that type of stuff if everything else is off their plate. So I think if we worked hand in hand with a training officer, we really could be pretty efficient on the
Okay.
better system.
That's good. I think we covered a lot of good things today. We talked about different demographics and committees, and working on a standardized training schedule that would work with all the shifts and the 40-hour people. A possible training officer position. Is there anything else that you'd like to maybe think about or you want to add to what we've talked about for improving training?
I think that's a really good start for us. Again, the guys are always, they're very easy to talk to when it comes to this, very receptive, but they also want to see results of being receptive. So as long as we continue to have forward movement, I think it's the route that we need to go with it for now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking time to sit down and talk with me. Thanks again, and I'll get back with you, and we'll see what we get from this.
All right.